Hi there. Welcome back to the Crush to Rush podcast. And today's episode is one that I loved recording because it's not about louder marketing or bigger titles or just chasing visibility to be seen. It's about being known for the right reason. So I'm sitting down with Heather Dixon Adams, who is the founder and CEO of Choice Media and Communications. And she is a powerhouse communicator. You're going to see when she starts talking, who's helped launch over 100 New York Times bestselling authors, built a fast-growing all-female agency, and spent more than 3 decades inside the rooms where influence is actually shaped. In this episode, we are going deep into topics that you might not expect, like what leading with confidence actually looks like, why balance is a myth and what works instead, especially when you're running a business, have a family, have a team. Like, what does this look like in real life? How to own your own voice in, I would say male dominated spaces, and what Heather has learned 30 plus years in business about boundaries, leadership, and quieting the noise and comparison. This is such a grounded, honest conversation about building a business with heart. And I think it's the exact conversation that we need to have right now, including what designing success looks like that actually supports your life. So if you're navigating growth, leadership, or the pressure to be on at all times, you're going to want to lean into this episode. Hello, Heather. Welcome to the Crush to Rush podcast. I'm so excited for today's conversation. So thank you so much for being here.
Me too, Holly. It is such a pleasure. So thank you. Honestly, I'm sincerely honored to be here.
Yeah, we were connected online and I feel like we both showed up, if you're watching our YouTube channel, in like animal prints. And then we started brainstorming about what we wanted to talk about. And I'm like, yes, this is going to be such a powerful interview, like filled with confidence. So
totally. Animal print is a neutral at my house. I don't know about you, but it's coming back into style in 2026. And I'm like, it's never left for me.
I know, I do love it. I tried to dress my girls in leopard when they were little and they're like, no, I'm not going for it. But I love it. I love it. Let's dig in with our favorite question. And that is, what does building a life first business mean to you right now?
Oh, gosh. I love this question for so many reasons, because as, a female business owner who leads an all-female team, my goal is for us to be a model and example for women coming behind us in business, right? Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you a quick story. In 2010, I got laid off from a company in corporate America that I had been at for nearly a decade, where I was the head of the department. And my husband said something to me that I will never forget. So, I'm going through all the stages of grief. I've just been laid off from a job that I love, working with people that I love, that felt like family. And my husband said, don't take your next step out of fear. Fear we can't pay our mortgage. Fear we can't feed our boys. Our boys at the time were 1 and 3. And they are now 19 and 16. So it's a very different season than it was then. But Matt said, instead of getting the quality of life by what's left over in the margins, determine what quality of life you want first and build your career around that. He said, you have worked so hard to build this beautiful, professional career that you have. And he was like, instead of getting the scraps, decide what you want your quality of life to look like and build around that. And that was how I built Choice, which is my business now. Mm-hmm. And I go back to that advice 16 years ago when Matt said that to me in 2010. And I think that was such great permission to dream for myself, something that the narrative I had been kind of conditioned in, professionally to believe had not ever told me.
Yeah, I love this. And I think it's probably very similarly to how we built our business. I'm curious, if you think about that moment and you think about somebody telling you that, and then having the confidence to go build your own business, what filled the gap for you?
Well, I wanted for the women coming behind me to have different than what I had as I was clawing and scraping my way up the corporate ladder professionally. So from when I graduated from college to that period of time, I felt like I was really doing everything possible to, claw and scrape my way to the top. And I just wanted different for women coming behind me. I wanted to widen the path. I didn't want it to be quite as thorny. I wanted it to feel more like allies instead of competitors. I was conditioned to believe to take other women down as I was, trying to get ahead professionally. And I wanted different for that. And so I thought, if I build a business that is something that I want for myself and that I want for the women coming behind me, it will be different than what my experience has been and what I'm seeing in the marketplace.
This is so good. Okay, I want to dig into a little bit, fast forward to some of the things that you've done and some of the trends that you're seeing. And so one of your amazing accolades from your company is you've helped over 100 authors hit the New York Times bestseller list, which is not a small feat for anyone to do. And so I'm curious, like, when you think about helping people get visible and stand out online and all the things that happen from like a PR perspective, like how is that different from like how you're leading with what you just shared?
Well, what I would say is, and it's been such a gift to be able to serve, change agents and thought leaders and tastemakers over my career to launch that many New York Times bestsellers. Yeah. But what I would say is, so often we are lured by what we see when we look side to side. This person over here has done this. That's what I need to do in order for my business to be successful. Or this person over here has done this to grow their following on social media by X. So that's what I should do. And instead, we need to really focus on the lane that we're in. There's this really great visual that I share a lot that I saw in the Olympics. And, we just had the Olympics, the Winter Olympics here and, earlier this year. And one thing that this story comes from Michael Phelps, who you may remember is the most decorated Olympian of all time. He was a swimmer. And he was in one Olympics that was supposed to be his last. And, he had lots of different events that he swam. And there was this guy named Chad Leclose from South Africa who was a competitor in one of his events. And in the Olympics, Chad beats Michael in this particular event. And he starts running his mouth and saying, Michael can't beat my time. He hasn't had this time and all this stuff. Well, so fast forward 4 years, Michael decides not to retire and he comes back to the next Olympics. And he's in Tokyo and he remembers what happened in London. And everybody's like, oh, what do you think of Chad Leclose? He beat you the last time. And Michael's like, I'll show him in the water. So they get in the pool and they're, in lanes next to each other, literally going back and forth for their event. And in the very last lap, every single time Chad Leclose comes up to take a breath, he looks at Michael Phelps in the lane next to him. Every time Michael Phelps comes up to take a breath, he's looking at the finish line. And it's just such a visual reminder that when we take our eyes off of our own goal, off of our own finish line, and we pay attention too much to what's happening on the side, we lose our own race. Michael Phelps beat him in the Tokyo Olympics, like by this crazy amount. And, Chad Leclose didn't even place. And so I think that is what I am noticing so much is we have to be true to what is in our DNA, what is best for our brand, our business, our customers and clients, as opposed to getting so distracted by what's happening in the lane next to us.
Yeah. Oh my God. I love this story so much. And immediately, because I'm such like a calculator, I'm like, oh my God, he's looking to the side and he's wasting time. Like I'm
That's exactly right, Holly.
Yeah. That's such a great reminder of think how much time you're spending looking at what everyone else is doing when you could just be focusing on what you should
and
do.
what's true to you,
Yeah.
like I've even had that distraction myself as a business owner. I'm like, oh, these people that I respect and admire that have grown beautiful businesses, like they did this thing, so I should try that in my business. But it's not authentic to me and my business. And every single time it proves out to not work,
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Let's dig into what you're seeing that's standing out as authentic in the world of personal branding, because I think a lot of people are listening and they're like, great, I'd love to be more authentic in my messaging or storytelling. What are some things that you're seeing that are working right now?
I would say long form storytelling is where it is at. And the more you can add a video component to that, the better. Mm-hmm. Substack has taken off and it's long form, content creation. But we've seen video elements added to Substack that are really taking off from a branding standpoint. The other thing I would say that I'm really noticing is for years and years, everybody has been told to niche down. Like you should only talk about this one thing, Holly, so that your audience knows this is what to come to you for. And everybody's feeds were perfectly curated and aesthetically pleasing and all of that. And what we are seeing as we keep our finger on the pulse of the industry is we are seeing that people are looking for a more holistic approach. So I'll use myself as an example. I'm a CEO and a businesswoman. I've been a publicist for 30 years. So I know a whole lot about PR and communications. I've launched more than 150 New York Times bestsellers, but the only thing I'm talking about is not book publicity, right? I'm talking about being a mom of boys, and I have one boy who's in college and one boy who's in high school. I'm close to being an empty nester. I'm talking about what it means to turn 50 this year and be firmly planted in midlife. I'm talking about what it means to, host people in my home and welcome people through hospitality. I'm not just talking about book publicity. And I don't just have a perfectly curated feed with, everything perfectly shot by a professional. There's tons of stuff I'm doing really quick and impromptu in a robe in my bathroom on my iPhone, And so I think we are seeing that the end consumer is fed up with that perfectly curated, aesthetically pleasing content. And that is only about one thing and is looking to have a relationship with the brand that feels more holistic and all encompassing and more approachable and accessible.
Yeah. I love this so much. And I'm going to give you an example because before every podcast interview, we always, research our guests and try to get to know them a little bit. So I was like sort of digging in behind the scenes and I saw one of your Christmas posts about all of your decorations. And I was like, oh my God, we're like kindred. We have like 17 Christmas trees in our house. Like, I am obsessed with holiday decorations. And I joke like that my name is Holly. And yes, it was after the plant, which happens to be at Christmas time. But I was like, it was, it wasn't about all the books and all the success, but it made it very like grounding to me of like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to talk to her.
Because we shared that in common. That was something connective for us, was this love of Christmas, right? And the celebration around that, and even the decor like connects you. There are people that'll send me a message and be like, I just made your soup that you made for your mom and dad for dinner the other night. I love that you shared that. I am not a cook. I am not a chef. But every now and then, like that is connective tissue with people,
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. What would you say to someone who's listening who is nervous about sharing like that side of them?
Well, we work with predominantly females, and I would say for women in particular, we are so afraid of standing in front of the camera, in front of the microphone. Even Holly, doing this interview with you is different for me, right? My job is to get other people media coverage. I'm like the wizard behind the curtain pulling the levers instead of the one in front of the microphone. I'm usually the one putting, my client in front of the microphone. And so it's a narrative in our head that we have to change, that everything has to look a certain way in order for us to show up for ourselves. We have agency and we need to advocate for the woman we want on the other side of that opportunity. And so, what I would say is do the damn thing, right? Like try, get in front of the camera, write the Substack article, post the Instagram post, jump on YouTube or TikTok or whatever platform is right for you. You don't need to do 85 platforms.
Right.
You can pick the right ones for you and your audience. But my counsel is just try it. You are going to be so much more relationally connected to the person you're trying to attract if you just try. There are posts that I have done, Holly, that I am like, oh my gosh, that post has 1 million views on it. And I am in a sweatshirt sitting, like I don't have my hair all done. I don't have my red lip on, and I don't, and it has nearly 1 million views. Like, so when we worry so much about what we look like or how we articulate ourselves or whatever, like the trying is so critical to our success.
Yeah.
And it's showing that audience that you're not afraid to put yourself out there.
Yeah. I love this. I actually had a moment of this last week because my girls were unexpectedly home, and like, we're very consistent with the podcast, and I had to do something. And so I was like, okay, it's just a hat. Like, we're just wearing a hat. We're just going to get it done, and it's fine. Like, everyone can appreciate a good hat moment. So I think that's just so relatable. But I will also say, I mean, you're very good at presenting and telling stories. And I know stories is something that we talk about a lot as things that stand out. How did you come up with, or how would you recommend coming up with what's your story to tell?
Well, I think you've got to be authentically yourself, me telling you about getting laid off is not somebody else's story that I'm telling you for you to connect to me, right? It is pain that I went through, that I navigated myself, how I met my husband, how I started my business, things that I have done well, mistakes that I have made. It's all authentic to Heather. We don't need to put on a show or contrive something in order for it to be relatable and get engagement. And so I think the important thing is to show up transparently, authentically as yourself.
Yeah, I love this. Okay, I want to transition topics a little bit. And
Sure.
You run a very successful business with a very large team, but also very much value family and decorating and doing fun things with your parents. What does that actually look like behind the scenes? Like, I hate the word balance. I like to use prioritize. I think there's different levels of priority, but how are you navigating between these different roles?
Well, I'll tell you something that worked for me that I started doing about 3 years ago. I just did it at the end of 2025 to plan for 2026. So we're almost halfway through the year, right?
Yeah.
Of 2026. It doesn't have to be done at the beginning or end of a year. You can do it right now in the middle of the year. It's developing life-giving essentials. So these are 5 things that make me the best version of Heather, that are things that bring me life, right? And so I keep them. In fact, right now, Holly, as I'm sitting here doing this interview with you, I have them sitting right next to me. I have them on my phone. I have them in my journal. I have them constantly present in front of me. So I'll give you an example. My number one life-giving essential this year is to honor and heal my body so I can feel strong, whole, and fully alive. I am in the process of I'm in midlife, I'm in perimenopause, right? And there's weird stuff going on with my body.
Yes.
And I know that if I don't care for my body well, it's going to affect every other aspect of my life. I'm not going to show up as myself well as a parent or as a wife or as a CEO. And so I have practices under each life-giving essential, that help me live out and kind of fiercely protect that life-giving essential for me. So moving my body is, a certain amount of days a week is a practice that helps me live out that life-giving essential. We are also multifaceted. I mentor college women. I lead an all-female team in my business. I am a boy mom. I want to stay married to my husband. I want to care for my body. My parents are 84 and 85. And, I'm definitely in that sandwich generation where you're caring for your children and you're caring for your parents, right? There's lots going on in my life. And so you're right. It could just be one more thing on my to-do list. So when I look at these are things that bring me joy, that bring me life, that give back to me so that I can show up as the best version of Heather. When there's a disruption, when something happens, it allows me to not get so thrown off kilter because I've been fiercely protecting these all along.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's so good and so simple too. And I feel like
it's so simple.
Those are the things that stick because we don't need this like long, complicated process. The second thing that I want to ask is, what are some boundaries that you like fiercely protect as you're running your agency?
So in my business with Choice, some boundaries that we fiercely protect are things like we do not work with jerks. So I'll give you an example. A couple of years ago, I had a client who was the number one revenue generating client in my business. She spent a lot of money with Choice, and we did really, really good work for her. But every single time my team went to go to a meeting or went to work with her in some capacity, they were trembling with fear because she was so unkind. And it was just so toxic, and everything was questioned, and she talked to my team terribly. And so I went in and I gave her notice and fired her as a client because it was not worth the revenue to the business for my team to be terrified and distraught and for it to be a toxic work environment because of this one client. So that is a boundary that we draw. Now, you can't always figure that out on the front end. We try as best we can in the acquisition stage to figure out if somebody's going to be difficult or whatever. But sometimes you get into work with people before you figure that out.
Yeah.
But I have an out. I don't have to stay in and make my team suffer through that. So that's an example of a boundary that we've drawn that we are not going to put up with.
I love that saying. That's like another one I'm going to write down. Like, it's just not worth it. It's just not.
It is not. And what I wanted it to show the women on our team is that money is not the end goal here. Is it nice to have great revenue? Is it nice for everybody to make good money? Of course it is. I'm not apologetic about that at all. But there is a way to make money in a fashion that is still honoring to the talents and value that the team brings, and it offer a healthy work environment for them. And so I just wanted to make sure that they knew they were much more important than the dollar signs from that client.
Yeah, I love this. I mean, I hope everyone listening is just getting like a big boost of energy from this conversation because it's so good. We're going to ask a couple rapid fire questions.
Sure.
And the first one is, what's one thing you used to believe about success that you no longer do?
Okay, one thing I used to believe is I had to have a certain title and a certain office and a certain income in order to be important, right? Like I needed to have that VP or higher title. I needed to have that corner office. I needed to make six figures or more in order for me to have stature, importance, and health in work and this success. That is not true at all.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I have a story that I tell where my goal was to have an office that had a door on it, right? And I was like, okay, I'm going to get it. And I got it. And then I was like, this sucks. Nothing is different except I have a door, but it really doesn't matter. It's like one of those things that you kind of have to go through it to realize it, but so not important. What would you tell yourself when you were first getting started to remind yourself now?
Oh, what would I tell myself when I first getting started and remind myself now? That you are enough, that you are smart and capable and worthy, and you offer other people value, and what comes easy to you that you diminish is really important to other people that they don't know how to do.
So good. Okay, just for fun, what are you reading or listening to right now?
Well, I'm on this reading kick for pleasure because I read for a living. I work on a lot of books, right? And I have to tell you, my favorite book that I have read so far this year is a book called Theo of Golden. And if you have not read it, look, I've worked on a lot of books.
No, I have
This is
not.
the best book I have read in probably 2 decades.
Oh, wow.
It is sensational. It is so nurturing to the soul. It's all about generosity and kindness. It's a beautiful story set in the town of Golden in Georgia, which is not a real town, but it just is like the best book.
Wow, that sounds very inspiring. And then also just for fun, you mentioned Substack and I know you read a lot. So I'm curious, like, what is something that like hits your inbox that you're like excited to read every week?
I love Mel Robbins' email that I get every single Monday morning. I love the format and structure of Mel's email. And I think this is something that anyone listening who has a business and you're trying to figure out how to engage with your customers or potential customers in a way that makes it more relationally driven instead of like a transaction. Mel's email is a good example of how to do this really well. So she starts out the email at the top with like a personal picture.
Yeah, which I love.
Taken on her iPhone. Yeah. It's not from a like photo shoot she's taken. It's like her and her husband, Chris, like over the weekend and, you know, they're in their car or, you know, whatever. And then she talks about like a personal story. And then she connects it to whoever is her guest on the podcast that week that she's promoting that episode of. So at the end of the day, her call to action that she's trying to get all of us to do is to watch or listen to that podcast episode. But her approach in this personal, connective way and through really great storytelling and being a human being is something that I really admire and love. And so I love getting her emails every week.
Yeah, it's so interesting that you said that because I listened to her podcast, but I never got the emails. And we're like doing some fun things behind the scenes with the podcast this year. And so I was like, I'm going to sign up for her email. And her picture is the first thing that I noticed when I got it. I was like, wow, it's just very organic and feels very like lighthearted and like she's your friend, which fits her brand very much.
Exactly. I was going to say it's so true to her brand. You know, she starts every video, hey, it's your friend Mel. You know, that's how she signs everything off. The newsletter she sends out is called the 143, which is, you know, I love you. 143 stands for I love you. So, you know, it's just like so authentic and true to her.
Oh my gosh, so good. I feel like I could just keep asking questions for hours, including we haven't even talked about Christmas decor or...
oh my gosh, yes, I'm here for Christmas decor.
But tell us where we can learn more about you, your agency, and all the things that you guys have going on behind the scenes.
Sure. Thank you for asking that. So just on socials, I'm Heather Dixon Adams, and Dixon is spelled Dixon. It's my maiden name. So Heather Dixon Adams. On Instagram, TikTok, you know, all the places. And then my business is Choice Media and Communications. And our website is just that, choicemediacommunications.com. So we'd love to connect with you there. I would be honored to welcome you into our community on any of my social platforms. And my Substack is called The Red Lip Life with Heather Adams. So if you're looking for any of those things, that's where you can connect with us.
I love that. I definitely have to dig into Substack more. And thank you so much for sharing your story with us, Heather.
Thank you. It's such a delight to be with you, Holly. What great questions. I love it. It was so easy because it's just like having a conversation with a girlfriend.
Oh, well, I love that. I think our listeners will too. So thank you.
Absolutely.